Good evening. It is the time of the day when we meet online as friends and supporters, members of the ACDP, to look at what has been happening and to have new friends and guests share with us tonight. So, greetings from today. Today it was hot, and I can already feel my skin is warming up. My skin is obviously shedding more oil because I have an oily skin. And we still need to find somebody who can put some powder, to help me not to shine as I'm shining right now. I can feel it. But welcome, Dumela Mbanabesu, Marana Jesu, Alexander Father, Sanbona, and Bagite Kaya. Huyenan, and welcome. And in Namfandi Yere. I'm not alone as always. I have a co-pilot, my colleague, Honorable Wayne Three, who is also going to send his greetings, share his greetings before we introduce our guest tonight.
Good evening, President, and again, thank you. Always good to be with you on what is becoming, I think, a mainstream, or rather a very interactive process where we interact with our members and supporters and have some guests on board. And I think that the momentum is actually beginning to grow for the ACDP. And to all of those who have tuned in, thank you again so much for tuning in. This is going to be a very interactive tonight, I believe, another interactive process. Lots lined up for you that you're going to enjoy. And so please stay tuned. And as we continue, remember that South Africa needs the ACDP and the ACDP needs you, in particularly after what happened in Parliament today. President, thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much. Who is the first to say hello? It's Cas van der Bijl Met. He says, "Good evening, Mr. President and Honorable Deputy President Wayne and my ACDP family. Warm wishes all the way from Port Shepstone in the Ugu district. Looking forward to the positive engagement tonight." And Jonathan Sukers, I'm not sure, he just said hi. That's it, Jonathan, hi. And then Karim Ditet says, "Good evening, all." And then we have Lizanda Dobson. I know this one is from Tswane. She says, "Good evening, dear President, DP, and leadership of ACDP. I'm looking forward to tonight's live." And then Nicole Sukers, "Good evening, Mr. President and ACDP family." Then Mario Brink, "Shalom all." Shalom. Mary Akrasi Buating, "Good evening, Mr. President and Deputy President. May God bless you mightily." Evening, President, your co-pilot and our ACDP family, glad to meet you again, and that is from Wongi Ngatko. Then we have Christo Kempfer. "Good evening, Rev and DP. Looking forward to from you tonight." Pastor Christo Kempfer. NMB. Where's NMB? Peter Maritzberg. Shirel Regan Jacobs. "Good evening, our dangerously favored President, DP, and ACDP family." Well, greetings to you all, particularly our guests. Tonight we are going to start with a friend of South African Christians. He comes from the Jewish community. He has been friends with us for many years. He's the chairman of the South African Zionist Federation, and his name is Rowan Polovin. Now, we asked him to explain to us, to everybody listening tonight, what are the implications and ramifications when an ambassador is recalled? As you know that the ANC did it last week, and today the ambassador from Israel was also called home for engagements, for negotiations, and to talk about what's happening, what needs to happen, and what move is going to be taken. So he's going to give us, shed some light on what could be the ramifications. What we know as the ACDP is that the ANC and the EFF have started is evil. It's evil, and it is definitely not good for the country. What I struggle to understand is how foolish and uncaring can some people be, that you have people who don't have clean water, who don't have access to water. And then you have a company from a country they don't like, saying, we are here to assist you. We are here to assist you. Those who know Israel, it was a desert where nothing was growing. Dead desert. And the people of God came together under God's blessings. They worked the country. The latest I was told was they have more water than they need. Can you imagine? South Africa doesn't have water. We have water shedding. We never knew about something called water shedding. Now you don't only have load shedding, electricity that's going off, also now you have water shedding, which is very, very sad. Okay, but Rowan is with us tonight to give us an insight into what might happen, what is definitely going to happen. So Rowan, welcome, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. The floor is yours. Tell us what is going to happen, and is this good or bad? What are your thoughts? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honourable President. Good evening to everyone, Honourable Deputy President, members, supporters, friends. How incredible would it be if the Honourable President was the President of this country? Is all I have to say, with those incredible opening statements and those words. So, friends, just very briefly, an overview of where we're at the moment. So just to give you an update on the current situation, today the EFF put forward a motion in Parliament on which the ANC asked for a slight amendment, which called for the suspension of ties between Israel and South Africa until Israel commits to a unilateral ceasefire with the terrorist entity Hamas, as well as what they call a United Nations facilitated settlement to what they call a lasting peace. And very sadly, this motion was passed in the National Assembly, but very fortunately, our good friends at the ACDP and others voted against this terrible, destructive motion. Just briefly to also say that Parliament has oversight, but does not have jurisdiction on the executive branch of this country, which means that although this was voted as a motion in Parliament this evening, it does not mean it's legally binding. It will now go to the President, the executive, who will decide whether they will implement it or not. However, it is extremely concerning and problematic and very dangerous to this country. We know very well that any country that makes an enemy of Israel and the Jewish people causes its own problems, causes its own destruction. And that has never gone well for any nation or enemy of the Jewish people who takes acrimonious position against them. And South Africa and the South African government has unfortunately taken this position, although we still believe that the vast majority of God-loving Christians in this country and the vast majority of South Africans love Israel and stand with Israel. Just very briefly, some of the potential ramifications if the government decided to cut off relations with the Holy Land. It would have numerous negative consequences for this country. First of all, South Africa would completely remove itself from having any role to play in the Middle East. You may have seen that numerous nations in the last few years have made peace with Israel. Numerous Arab nations, from the United Arab Emirates to Bahrain to Sudan and Morocco here in Africa. And yet South Africa decides to take a different position to countries in the Middle East surrounding Israel. So it removes South Africa from having any international mediatory role and any kind of international standing in the international community, which has implications for peace. And more importantly, for our purposes, it cuts off the Christian and Jewish community in South Africa who have religious and spiritual ties to the Holy Land. In South Africa, we as Jews and Christians in this country have a constitutional right to freedom of speech, but more importantly, to freedom of religion. We have a right to our beliefs, and we have a right to express those beliefs, and we have a right to have a connection to the Holy Land of Israel. And if our government tries to cut off this, they're attempting to cut off our connection. It makes it more difficult for Christians to go on pilgrimage, to travel to Israel. It makes it more difficult to visit the holy sites in Israel. And it makes it difficult to access any kind of consular services in Israel, any kind of assistance that we may need from the South African government, from the South African embassy in Israel. It makes that very difficult. It also has enormous economic ramifications for this country. We know that the United States is the most powerful economic country in the world, the most powerful country in the world, and the United States is watching very closely. We have what's known as AGOA, the special trade agreement with the United States to benefit trade and economic activity in South Africa. And American senators have already looked at this and have already said they're extremely concerned that South Africa is palling up to an internationally designated terrorist organization, and they're extremely concerned by the actions of the South African government. So this has serious ramifications for that. It has economic problems. We have, as the Reverend, as the President said very clearly earlier, Israel is a world leader in numerous areas. Even though Israel is 60 times smaller than South Africa, Israel's economy is larger than South Africa. And Israel has solved many problems that South Africa faces, such as water, electricity, and numerous other challenges. Israel, as the President said, has an abundance of water, even though it's desert. Israel exports water. It's a remarkable thing. Here in South Africa, with a water crisis, with an electricity crisis, we are removing ourselves from having a friend and partner of Israel who can solve our local technological, agricultural, water challenges. It's extremely dangerous to the poor people in South Africa, to communities in South Africa who need this kind of assistance. It also has a big impact on bilateral agreements, on agreements that we have with international organizations in science, technology, education. And these are all kinds of areas that will be dramatically impacted. And we cannot let this happen. We cannot let the South African government, the ANC in particular, take these positions and have this adversarial approach to Israel. On the positive side, if one can look for any positive side, first of all, travel and visa, that all remains the same. There are still flights going to Israel as we speak. South Africans still do not need a visa when going to Israel. The Israeli airline El Al, continues to fly between Israel and South Africa. There are still consular services that are available. Although the Israeli ambassador has been recalled for consultation, this is not permanent. And we hope and pray that this is not going to be a long-term thing. It's going to be temporary, and that the ambassador can return. And we need to stand up as Jews and Christians in this country and ensure that our constitutional rights are not being violated. We need to vote the ANC out of power. We need to vote the ACDP into power, and parties that support Israel and that have moral clarity. This is a time to have moral clarity. This is a time to see the difference between good and evil, and to take the side of the good, to take the side of the righteousness. And I'm going to end there, but if there are any questions or any comments, I'm more than happy to engage.
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation, Rowan. Anybody who has a question while he is here, let's ask him questions. Because as you heard, he is knowledgeable, he'll be able to answer questions. There is a comment from Producer Mputi. He says the ANC and EFF's target is religion. They'll do whatever it takes to push for one religion, even if it means they burn Israel and South Africa bridges. Okay, yes, you can be maybe through the Totiso. Any question or any comment before Bani Bernardo? He says, if Trump becomes president of America again in 2024, then AGOA deal is out of the window. So South Africa will lose big. Now, obviously, what we have to do as Christians, we know how to pray. We need to pray that God will open the eyes of Christians who are still in the dark, Christians who still don't understand the importance of standing with Israel. You have some Christians who think or who have been deceived to believe that Christians have replaced Israel in God's agenda. Hey, that is a terrible, frightening deception there, okay? Christians, we are here as a church today because we are attached to Israel. Okay, I say on a number of occasions that many Christians like to quote Isaiah 54, verse 17, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But you know that that promise was not made to Christians. It was not for the Christians, but the promise were for the Jews, because those days when the prophet Isaiah spoke those words, there was no Christian, there was no church. So we are benefiting from these blessings that have come through Father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because Jesus also came through that lineage. Okay, so whenever a Christian say, no, we have replaced them, tell them that I pity your ignorance, and let's help such Christians. So as Christians, we need to pray, but one of the most important things is to make sure that next year, ACDP becomes part of government. Obviously, to have a president from the ACDP is not far-fetched. God has a plan with South Africa, I must tell you. South Africa is called by God to be a model among nations of the world. And that will not happen if the relations with Israel are not restored. One of the important things we'll do when God gives us government, we will tear this motion that was done today, we'll tear it to pieces. But in the meantime, we'll be praying that President Ramaphosa does not sign it into law. Okay, does not sign it. Because if it is not signed, it will not be implemented. All right? The embassy will remain open if the ambassador comes back until it has been signed and an official proclamation in that regard made. But for now, we need to pray. We don't even want to think that it will be signed. We need the ambassador of Israel back in his position in South Africa. So we're going to pray for that. Let's pray together to make sure that the ANC definitely must get out. They shot themselves in the foot. What they've done, they've taken a position against God himself. And anybody who takes a position against God, pity that person. So pity the ANC, pity the EFF. The EFF many times talk about the EFF government, the EFF government. It will never happen. Okay, it will never happen. I still have to tell them in public, it will never happen. You cannot treat God's people like this and think that it will happen, because God, the Bible says, ultimately, it is God who lifts up an individual, places him in position, and it is God again who brings a person down. So the ANC is going down. The EFF is going down. Your eyes are going to see it, and we are going to celebrate as our relationship with Israel becomes the best ever. It is going to be like that, and that's what I believe with all my heart. All right. Marvin Christian says, if South Africans understood the economic impact regarding this decision, they would differ and support our stance, because the people on the ground will suffer most. Well, this is true, Marvin, but we know that ANC does not care. We know that EFF does not care. They don't care, all right? But what you're saying is true. Christians should know and should pity the terrible, terrible mistake that ANC and EFF have done. And Rumukwena, good evening, Honorable. Will you encourage Jewish community to vote ACDP? Okay, that's one is for Owen. He says, will you encourage the Jewish community to vote ACDP? Rowan?
Yes, and there are many Jews who vote for the ACDP, and we see who our friends are in Parliament. We see our friends of the ACDP. We see that they stand with us at every opportunity. We see that they stand with Israel. And these are our friends. And these are the people we need to vote for. And we will encourage our community to vote for our friends, people who unequivocally stand with Israel. That is what is absolutely important. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rowan. And tell them we want the presidency. Lovers of Israel want the presidency. In spite of the people who hate Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, we will have him here. Whether they like it or not, we'll bring him here if he's still the prime minister. Okay, if he's not the prime minister, we'll bring in the president. But I promise you, once the ACDP takes the lead in South Africa, we are going to have either the prime minister or the president of Israel within 2 years, less than 2 years, they will be in South Africa. It will be wonderful. Okay, Jim George says, will you be laying a charge against Al-Jamaa leader for inflammatory anti-Semitic comments? It's not going to be an easy one, but DP, will you come in now and maybe say something about this question from Jim George? Will you be laying a charge against Al-Jamaa leader for inflammatory anti-Semitic comments?
President, I think very clearly the comments that were raised by the leader of Al-Jamaa were inflammatory. I think certainly those particular comments also that were made should never have been made by a leader of any political party who calls for peace. I think sadly also what he did was he then said that there are Jewish people in South Africa. After calling for the annihilation of Jews, that all Jews and everything that has to be related to Israel must be wiped off, removed from South Africa, almost like the Hamas call in Israel. He then says there are some Jews that support the Palestinian cause, and those are the Jews that they must work with. So a bit contradictory. But I think that the ACDP will certainly oppose the Al-Jamaa leader and call for him to be held to account in terms of the statements that have been made. It is unacceptable that any leader calls for, in essence, almost a genocide for Jews wherever they are found. But his was with reference to Jews in Israel. So I think it is completely unacceptable. And yes, I think the ACDP, together with our like-minded friends in Parliament, will not sit back and accept these kinds of comments.
Yes, thank you, Sam. There is a comment from Kiwi Fruit Maluleke. She says, we are for Israel, and the truth will prevail. Enemies of Israel will perish because of their ignorance. Hashtag vote ACDP. So, Rowan, when you go back home, tell them ACDP supporters and members are saying we are for Israel, we'll stand with Israel through thick and thin, dark clouds, nice clouds, no clouds, sunshine, we will stand with Israel. You have friends who will never be intimidated by anybody. Never will be intimidated by anybody. Will stand with Israel because the God of Israel has said through his servant, those he will bless, those who bless Israel. And we want blessings. We want South Africa to be blessed. That is why we need to lead South Africa and take it out of the hands of the evil people who don't understand what good is, people who don't want good for South Africa. Lead this country to have a very close relationship with Israel, because God Almighty has said, I will bless those who bless Israel, and I will curse those who curse Israel. Watch what's going to happen to all those who said negative words against the God of Israel. Watch what's going to happen to them, because God is not mocked. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, that person will reap. Okay? As we come to the end of this session with Rowan, 248 members of parliament supported the EFF motion to shut down the embassy. 248 supported that. Only 91 members who came from these four parties, ACDP, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, and the DA. These were the only four parties that said, we are going to vote against this motion, this terrible motion. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we are. Thank you very much, Rowan, for being with us tonight. Your last words before we release you, say.
I just want to thank you, Mr. President, and all our friends here. May you all be blessed. May God bless you. May God bless Israel. And I'll see you soon. We're hoping and praying for a good South Africa and for positive relations with Israel. So thank you so much for having me.
Israel lives. Thank you so much. Our
Thank
blessings to you, our blessings to the people of Israel, and we pray for the release of all those hostages, particularly the children. The T-shirt I got from on Sunday afternoon is of a 4-year-old boy who has been kidnapped. Ariel is his name. I pray for him every day, for his release every day. The T-shirt, I put it where I can see it. It's not in the cupboard somewhere. No. I put it on a chair where I see it. Whenever I enter the bedroom, I see the T-shirt. And I pray for Ariel and and all other children with him, and obviously, and the parents, all those who have been kidnapped. We pray that the Lord will do a miracle and release them from their captivity. Thank you very much, Rowan. The Lord bless you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready for the ladies with the food scientists? I think there were some questions last week that there was no time for them to answer. So you can chair that session as we do. We can't see the questions, ne? All right, I'll read the questions. Okay, Mpho Mudiba, last week there was a challenge with the connectivity. She could not say anything. And today I think everything is okay. But Tobile spoke well last week, and people had questions from what she said. So Mpho, maybe let people hear your voice before we come to the questions. Say something, maybe the next few minutes, 5 minutes, and then we'll come to questions.
Good evening, everyone.
Mpho.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. One question that was posed, one question that was posed had to do with red bait. I think they mentioned some chemical that kills rats. So it seems
some maybe I can assist by reading the questions.
Use this bait very carelessly. Hello?
All right, Mpho.
Hello.
I'm going to read the questions and you two answer. All right. Let me read the first question. It says, please may you talk to the problem or issue of the big stores and suppliers selling expired goods to the spaza shops. And that is Luke Felicity Botha. Okay, big stores and suppliers are selling expired foods to the spaza shops. What can you say about that? Ladies, any one of you, please.
Okay, good evening. I'm not sure. Maybe Mpho has an issue with.
Tobile, go for it.
Okay, I think Mpho is still struggling with the bandwidth there a bit. So, with the issue of stores selling expired goods to the spaza shop, I mean, that is, that's obviously flouting or violating any rules or regulation regarding the labeling regulation or the regulation regarding the hygienic requirements for food premises. So, there are best before dates or expiry dates that must be clearly, displayed on a product. Even if it's a bulk product, you need to have a best before date. So if some of these establishments, they don't want to throw their product away. So if the product has gone by its selling date, they don't want to throw it out. They want to change the sticker and replace it with a newer one. But now the product, obviously, it's not fresh anymore. So people who do that, they violate the rules and the regulations that are in place, but that is the area of the municipality. That's why they have the inspectors, where they have the authority and they have the power to go into these stores and inspect these products. And then if they find that they are not compliant, they have the power to close the premises down. They have the power to remove the products off the shelves. So that's violating laws, regarding to the regulations that are set by the government, and only the municipalities under the Directorate of the Food Control has the power to step in, to assist with the public, because at the end of the day, it is the public or the consumer who's going to get hold of the product, who's going to consume that product, and it is the consumer who's going to get sick from eating such a product. I hope that answers Luke Felicity's Botha's question.
Okay, DP, the second question.
So, okay, let me go through. I think the second question, it's the one that relates to it says, may I ask about the possible contamination of food with rat poisoning? For example, is two-step sold next to food? So with regards to that, I think the two-step here is the name of the rat poison. I'm not familiar with it, but according to regulation as well, you cannot store non-food products with food products. You have to make sure that you prevent the risk of contamination or cross-contamination. So even on the shelves of the retail market stores, you don't get, cleaning detergents, next to food. So even when you store it, you have to store it separately, because you don't want to run a risk of contamination of the different products. Even with products, that has allergens, you cannot mix if somebody's, like, for instance, if somebody's allergic to peanuts, so you can't mix a product that somebody would buy and then they'll rather that they did not want to eat something with peanuts and something that will have some detrimental effect to their lives. And I think, Mr. President, most of here we had comments more than questions. So the next ones, I think they were comments as well.
Okay. Unmute DP. Now, unmute DP.
Products.
Please unmute.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now, Paul?
Yes,
I think the next question is with regards to GM foods. So why are we talking about GM foods when we have the capacity to provide fresh products? So essentially saying, balancing GM against fresh food products.
Okay, yes, with GM, because with the GM food, when people engaged or with the activities of GM food, mostly is to make money. They want to make more profits, because the yield for the GM food will give you more money into your pocket. And I totally agree with this question or a comment that, we should look more into fresh produce. And that's where I think government should step in, because there is vast land. If government would step in, and give people seeds, and give people training. There's one comment that spoke about, people are being given land, but they are not given training. So if government could step in and give people training, if they could give people, resources, to work the land and education, I think we can have more fresh produce. We can have more organic, products. Currently, as we stand, if somebody decides that they only want to, to consume organic products, or they don't want to consume, meat, or for instance, chicken, if it's caged, you want to only consume free range chicken, it's far expensive. Not everyone can afford that. And the reason that it's expensive, it's because the yield for such, it's so low. So that's why it's priced so high. But I think it's something that if government can meet, people halfway, we can work the land and we can have our own, organic products, less chemicals. And yeah, I think it will be a win-win for everyone. I totally agree that if that direction can be changed, it can be worked.
Thank you very much, Tobile. Thank you very much. And Mpho, thank you also for being with us. We tried again, it did not work. We have to move on. Unfortunately, we don't have more questions. The 18th and the 19th of this month, Saturday and Sunday, were days that the IEC put aside for parties to encourage people to register to vote. All right? We had to register to vote. And some provinces did well, some not so well, in the sense that they did not take contacts, they did not take the names of the people to encourage them to join the ACDP, and also to help them to register to vote. It is not only about helping people to register to vote, but it is also getting membership from those people. Now, I went to 4 regions on Saturday with the leader of the Gauteng province, Bishop Adams. And I must say that I was impressed by what I saw. I was told they have gazebos in many of these voting stations, and the bishop told me that he started 6 a.m. They started putting up these gazebos. We went to Soweto, we went to Randwest, we went to Tshwane, and we also went to Bishop. You'll assist me as you are coming on. Now we are going to introduce the MPL Dalton Adams. He is our MPL in Gauteng. He has done a great job. I'm sure you're going to give the numbers. I want the numbers. How many people did your people register? And how many joined the ACDP, particularly on Saturday? Particularly on Saturday. That's where I spent the whole day. I was tired afterwards, but it was worth spending the day with our guys on the ground. Okay, please let's welcome Bishop Adams, our MPL in the Gauteng legislature. Tell us, did you train your people? What did you do? Why were so many of them on the board? They were on the board. Maybe before you come on, I was impressed in Randwest. While there was a table and a number of people at that voting station, some young people were going street to street, house to house on Saturday, distributing pamphlets, saying to people, register to vote, come with us, bringing people to the table. I was impressed when I saw that. And I really hope that most of our guys would do that. And obviously, if they didn't do that, we'll make sure that in the next opportunity we get in February, we are all going to do that. So, Bishop, please share with our people, what did you tell your people that others were not told?
Thank you so much, Honorable President. Good evening to you, sir, and to our Deputy President, Honorable Wayne Tring, and to all the leadership and the family of the ACDP. Thank you for the opportunity, President. Yes, the 18th and 19th was a very important weekend for registration for the 2024 elections, which we believe is, next to the 1994 elections, going to be one of the most important elections that this country has ever been part of. It's a watershed moment for South Africa. We have seen what has happened in the past 3 decades, how the ANC in particular has ruined this country. So it's imperative and important that we put in all effort from all areas and stations to make sure that we fly the ACDP flag very high from now until 2024, until the president announces and promulgates the election date. Coming to the voter registration weekend, President, all of us in the ACDP are aware when it comes, and we know what to do when it comes to campaign visibility. Campaign visibility requests that we put up our branding and put on our regalia. We mobilize our people and we go out to shopping centers and to corners of streets, and we put on our tables with our tablecloths, and then we invite people. And nowadays, President, let me mention to you, sir, and you saw it for yourself, that people are magnetized and attracted to the ACDP brand and the logo of the ACDP. And also when they see your face, President, people just come to the table. It is important that every volunteer, every member, every worker in the ACDP must make sure that whoever they engage, it must not be a chit-chat. It must be an engagement with regards to taking details. And I don't want to pun the DA here or fly their flag, but one has to learn is that they make sure they are meticulous when it comes to writing down the details of every person they engage. Because body to body and face to face engagement is what gives one the opportunity, maybe even 99.9%, to make that person a member of the ACDP and ultimately a voter for the ACDP. So the strategy for visibility, President, is similar to the strategy of employing it for registration. Remember, we put up our gazebos, we put our tables and our regalia, we go out there, and like all the other parties do, and you could see that in Gauteng in particular, that we presented better than most of the parties because we were better organized on the day, because we were there early in the morning. I called meetings with the chairpersons of regions, preparing them for the voter registration weekend, because I thought it was incredibly important that they be ready, that we must make sure that the ACDP is there and being a force to be reckoned with. So when we went from voting district to voting district, we had people there outside, people inside, and we made sure that we engaged the people, writing down the names of the people that came to our tables. And that happened throughout the province, President, because it was important. What then that lends and gives to us is the fact that we are able now to follow up those people and to make sure we bring them into the fold and the family of the ACDP. Let me also mention, before I go to the next point, President, is that all of us must remember that voting registration is not only the 18th and 19th of November, and also another weekend in February, but we must continue, President, register people every single day as we go towards 2024 until the president of the country promulgates the date of the elections. So it is an opportunity. We must not wait for February. Every weekend, every day, we must have what we call voter registration strategies, engaging people, families and friends and people in the streets with our street committees and people in our churches and everywhere, make sure that our people are registered. And that is then the information that we collate and harness and we harvest. And those are the people that we can keep in contact with to vote for the ACDP come 2024. What is also very important, President, is to make sure that the people that we register, we must always make sure that we keep those stats at hand to make sure that we engage them. So in Gauteng, President, we had a massive harvest. Johannesburg wrote up 1,500 people, mostly on the Saturday. But I must also say on the Sunday, especially in Region B, the areas of Westbury and Claremont and Nuclear and Borsmont, Coronationville, those areas, President, was populated with people coming to particularly the tables of the ACDP. 1,500 people, which I think is a massive number of people. In Tshwane, 84 people. In Rand West, 121. Rand West is a shining example, President, of a small region that makes major impact. Ekurhuleni 21, Mogale City 12. But we're going to make sure that those numbers, President, are increased as we go towards 2024. Let me mention this, President, that we must not see these numbers as small numbers. Wherever we have a footprint, it is important that we make sure that we build on that and make sure that we get people registered. They say there was 500,000 new people that registered, President. In fact, 2 million people actually engaged and went through the turnstiles, if we call it like that, to the voting districts in all of the country, and especially also in Gauteng being the highest economic hub, and where the most voters are in Gauteng is about 6.2 million voters here in Gauteng. So I want to admonish and encourage our people to make sure that we plan correctly for these voter registrations, harness and harvest these details, and make sure that we follow up these people, that they will vote for the ACDP, to put the ACDP in power and to make sure we are part of government in 2024, sir.
Thank you very much for that very encouraging words. Encouraging in the sense that you have fruit, and that is the fruit that I believe will remain. I saw with my own eyes how the soldiers on the ground were interacting, and I salute you and your leadership for what you have done. You know, when we went to a seat in Rand West, when we arrived there, our table was between the DA and the ANC tables.
Yes.
I tell you, our councillors started a song. They were singing. DA and ANC members were watching, and some even, I thought maybe they were just kind of jealous, you know. But our guys were not shy, they were not intimidated. My president, in the street. I mean, so wonderful. I dance with them, as I like to dance, you know. But I want to thank them all, and I want to thank Gauteng. You've done very, very well. I appreciate what you have done, sir. And the other provinces, we will engage them during this week to find out what they have done. To have one region sign more than 1,000 people, I mean, that's very good. Joburg, I applaud you for what you have done. Thank you very, very much. DP, you want to say something, sir, before we move on to your rand currency, but on this issue, where were you? Yes. And is there you want to ask the bishop before he goes? And maybe I'm going to open a floor for questions to the bishop before he goes, because he has done it.
I forgot to mention, President. Sorry, DP, my apologies.
Sure.
We had a cleaning. I took the President a massive block of flats called Maxwell Court, President, in Claremont, where the councillor Ronald Harris was working, and while we cleaning a very dirty place, would invite people to go and register. So we did a cleaning campaign and also registering at the same time. We must mention that, President. I think that was important.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I forgot that. I saw, actually, I made a mistake. We should have had pictures tonight. We'll have them next week. When I was told that man is Councillor Harris, he didn't look like him at all. You know, he had the mask, he had overalls, big hat because it was hot, you know, but the man was working hard. Hey, guys, we are not going to get government by just praying. It's prayer and hard work. So you guys that have not done anything, you are just wishing everybody well. Please, 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 please. Hard work, hard work, hard work. The Lord has promised to bless the works of our hand. Okay, so I saw our guys, I saw Councillor Harris. He was cleaning a dirty place, And the people, obviously, when they see ACDP people clean their areas, doing what the municipality should be doing, they say we can trust this guy. So well done to Councillor Harris and the team. Thank you very much. And obviously, there are people, let me read a few things that the people are saying about you guys. Natasha Elliott says, well done, Councillor Harris. Who else saying something? AFM Miracle Tabernacle. I hope you're speaking for the whole AFM church. He says, well done, Bishop Adams. Good hearing you. Is that Pastor Naidu? I hope it is.
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen him in years.
Oh, you haven't seen him in years. All right. He was with Madulega says, agree, Mr. Adams. Consistency is key. If we keep that up, we will come out stronger and better, guaranteed. You are right, Kiwi Fruit. All right. And then we have Laxen Nakedi. Bishop Adams, greatly concerned about Mfuleni. I went to register in Everton, but there was no ACDP visibility. There you got it, Bishop. We need to work on Mfuleni. They went to register, but there was no ACDP visibility. And obviously, that's one region we did not go to on Sunday, on Saturday. All right, please work on that. People want visibility. All right, before we lose time, DP, it's your turn, sir.
Yes, sir. Well,
okay, so go ahead.
Can I just maybe quickly say that I was out during the voter registration period out in Mpumalanga, out in the White River area, and also in Kabukweni and Magoko, and really encouraged. Initially, we had about 2 branches in the Kabukweni area. It is now sitting at 16 branches over the last couple of months. So where we were at 2 branches, we now have 16, and they've indicated to me that close on to 100 ANC young people, youth, have signed up for the ACDP. They are tired of the ANC and they have signed up as ACDP members. So being really encouraged, President, at what is also taking place in Mpumalanga and my visit there over the weekend.
I thought there would be somebody from Tshwane. When we were at Tshwane, we were told, Bishop, I'm not sure whether you remember this, we were told about a kumbi with ANC members, a kumbi full of ANC members. They stopped at the ACDP table, one went out to ride and to join, and the other said, we are going to do that. Kumbi full of ANC members. Ladies and gentlemen, people are drawn to the ACDP. If you are shy to talk about the ACDP, people are ready. The hearts of the people are open. People are realizing we have no future with the ANC. People want change. People want something different. People want something that has God's blessing on it. People want a godly political party. So let us work hard and reach out to people who want the ACDP. Okay, you don't have much time, so I don't know whether you want to conclude or you still want to start with the subject that maybe we can postpone.
I think in the next 3 to 5 minutes, I should be fine, President. Let me just speak so that we can get it done.
Okay, sir.
Well, clearly, I think firstly, we need to understand that the problem here is a problem within the private sector. And very often we are scathing when it comes to corruption and malpractice, fruitless and wasteful and irregular expenditure within the public sector and in government sector, and rightfully so. We ought to be very critical of government when they waste public funds. But I think, President, we also need to be just as critical when it happens within the private sector. You can recall also we had the Steinhoff issue where the books were fraudulently crooked and cooked. We've also had the similar situation with Tongaat Hulett here in KwaZulu-Natal in particular, where this massive company also conducted itself, some of the directors, in fraudulent activity in fixing the books and falsely presenting the company for something that it was when it wasn't. And hundreds of millions of rands of citizens of South Africa who invested in Steinhoff, as well as within Tongo Juliet, lost billions of rands, hundreds of millions of rands, if not billions of rands, were lost as a result. The same situation is now with regards to the banks. When around about 2007, between 2007 and 2013, it is alleged that a number of banks, up to 27 banks, colluded to fix, and this is within the Forex trading area, where you have trading pairs, currency pairs, and in particular the dollar-rand trading pair. So it has been alleged and now apparently also proven that the banks, some 27 banks colluded to fix the currency pair of the rand and the dollar. Now, what this basically means, President, is when, for example, the rand weakens against the dollar, that is favorable for our exports. So when we export goods, the rand is now trading at, let's say, 20 rand or so to the dollar. It just means that South African companies who are exporting their goods, they get more rand. So because of that particular currency pair. But what it also means is that if South Africa, however, has a deficit in terms of its balance of payments, which means that we are importing, we have a deficit in the balance of payments, means that we import more goods than we export. Then it's not bad for the country. Then it's not bad for South Africans. It's not good for South African citizens, rather. It's bad for the country when we have a deficit in our balance of payments, meaning we're importing. So those goods that we're importing, when the rand weakens, and if it's been manipulated to weaken, it essentially means that South African citizens have to pay more for the goods that are imported into the country. And now it has been estimated that these particular banks have been making trillions of rand. The allegations in the reports is that these banks have made up to 1 trillion rand a day. This was taking place between 2007 up to 2013, when the Competition Commission realized that something was wrong, and they began the investigation. The banks then in South Africa said, no, they took this to court, and they said the Competition Commission does not have any jurisdiction. And so it had to go to the tribunal. But the Competition Tribunal has ruled that the Competition Commission actually does have jurisdiction. And now the banks have to answer. One of the banks, which is Standard Chartered, has agreed to comply and is now complying with the Competition Commission and informing them exactly what took place and how the rand was manipulated to favor the banks. Now, very clearly, the position of the ACDP is that we are just as scathing with government when there's fraud and corruption, we ought to be just as strong when it comes also from the private sector, and this includes the banks. And so the banks must answer, and the law that applies to government in terms of accountability and consequence management must also apply to the banks. Standard Chartered was given a fine of some 43 million rand. It is a paltry, it is a drop in the ocean compared to the damage that was done to the economy and the harm that was caused to the lives of millions of South Africans. And so very clearly, President, there has to be consequences that must follow to the banks, and the ACDP will follow this also very carefully to ensure that that happens.
Well, thank you very much. Corruption is both in the private and the public sector. As we say, government must stop corruption. We also have to say the private sector, care for the people. Don't be so greedy and crooked, okay? Don't be greedy and crooked and start cheating on the innocent and many times poor consumers. Okay, DP, thank you very much. We have come to the end of our, do you call it a show? What do you call it? Engagement? What do you call it, DP?
Our live streaming program.
Okay, just a program. Okay, live streaming program. I thought you have a fancy name for this engagement, but thank you very much, sir, for your input.
That may be something, President, we need to do. Maybe we can ask our folk out there just to put out some names so we can actually give it a fancy name. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, sir. The chairman of the South African Zionist Federation has gone, Rowan. Thank you to him. And then our ladies, there's food scientists, Tobile and Mpo. Thank you very much again, Mpo. It is not your day will come. We will ensure that we'll maybe find you a place that has better connection, better connectivity, where Wi-Fi is stronger than in Mamelodi. We will find such a place. But thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, President.
Yeah, thank you. Bishop,
Thank you,
very
President.
much. Thank you. God bless you, man. There are a number of people, obviously, who remarked, but we've lost time. Can I have the last two remarks, Josh? Some people wanted to say thank you to the bishop also. Let's see. Godly government. We stand unapologetic. We are ACDP, Bravo DP, the DA party. The DA party, Mendy Thini says, the DA party agents asked for ACDP t-shirt. That is interesting. A Kumbi of ANC stopped to sign up, and the other said, no, we'll come back. Now here we are told the DA party agents asked for ACDP t-shirts. This is wonderful. God is at work. Be encouraged. Be encouraged, guys. Regardless of what you hear in the media, regardless of the statistics, regardless of these opinion polls, friends, ACDP is going to take off. Okay, what we have seen so far is nothing compared to what is coming. That is why we have to be obedient to God in politics all the time. Obedient to God, then his blessings will be great upon us. Thank you, Mr. President. DP, South Africa needs the ACDP.
Yeah.
And the ACDP
needs you.
You got it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. Have a good evening. DP, your last words, sir, and then we close.
Well, President, I really believe that it's just encouraging to see what is happening across the country. And like you said, God is in control. We've been praying. We continue to pray. And we are expectant come 2024. We're asking everybody to put their shoulder to the wheel. These next few months, let's work flat out so that we can bring the best result for the ACDP and have our ACDP President, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Meshoe, as President of South Africa.
Nobody will go to Hungary when after that has happened. I promise you. This country is wealthy. This country has enough food. It is the thieves who have been wasting. But I promise you, with God blessing the country, because we'll be walking in obedience to him, this is going to be a great country. I've said in a number of meetings that the day will come when people in Europe, Europeans will ask the question, tell us, what happened to South Africa? We can't believe what we are seeing. The prosperity we are seeing, the peace we are seeing. What happened to South Africa? And then we'll introduce them to the Prince of Peace, who is the one guiding us and leading us. So thank you very much. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Our guests, good night. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.